Hello.
Hello, co-host Michelle. How are you?
Hello, host Dan. How are you?
And hello there, cat people. It's Dan the Cat Man, and whatever you want to call yourself, Michelle the co-host.
Sure, that works.
Well, I don't want to insult you by calling you Michelle the Cat Girl. So, welcome to episode 40 of the Shelter Cats podcast.
I'm very excited.
You're gonna. This is your first recording of a preamble with me, so I'm off and running. The Shelter Cats podcast is our labor of feline love, and all about the shelter cats that have saved our lives, or in your case, have farted a lot and saved your life that way, and all about the people that make a difference in the lives of shelter cats, and hopefully will inspire you to adopt a shelter cat of your own, or a second or a third. Right, Michelle?
Yeah,
right, Michelle?
That's right. Because they're like potato chips. You can't just have one. That's really how it goes.
It's funny you should mention that. I got Pringles with my grocery order this week, so appropriately timed.
There you go.
So, the Shelter Cats podcast, episode 40. I can't believe we're at 40 episodes already. So this episode is the first episode of 2024. So Happy New Year, Michelle.
Happy New Year.
How was your New Year's?
It was nice. Went to see a show, went to see a band, and really just enjoyed myself. Had a great time.
Awesome.
And today's just kind of been mostly a lazy day, but working on some projects also. But yeah.
Absolutely. Same here. I saw a couple of people, nothing exciting.
Right.
And today it's been thumbnail day and podcast day and Twilight Zone day.
Oh, there you go. That's not a bad day.
So today's episode, I'm starting a new thing that you and I talked about, Feline Spotlight episodes.
Right.
Because like as much as I love the people that we're going to be interviewing and the guests we've had on the show, I thought it would be a good idea to spotlight the cats that you and I have.
Yeah. So,
because the tagline is the cats that have saved my life, and tonight this episode is about Tucker, and Tucker has very much saved my life in every way, shape, or form. So I'll regale you with the story of Tucker.
Good.
But before that, for those of you listening, and thank you for listening, if you have an amazing, I sound like a commercial. If you do anything to better the lives of shelter cats or homeless cats, even if you own a great cat, or if you run a shelter, if you do rescue, if you do TNR, if you just foster at home, or if you just own an amazing cat, you think your cat's better than ours, and that's okay. That's fair. We want to hear the story. So this is how you reach us, just so that you know how to reach us. The website is tylerthecat.com. My email is dan@tylerthecat.com, and yours is michelle@tylerthecat.com.
Perfect.
The Facebook page is Shelter Cats. The TikTok, the Instagram, and the Threads, just search Shelter Cats podcast. I post on Threads, but I don't think anybody's really paying attention to Threads. The Twitter is Shelter Cats POD. The YouTube is also just search Shelter Cats. And we do a Medium blog every Saturday. So that's sheltercats.medium.com. So that's how you find us. So don't be shy. We want to hear your stories, because this podcast is fair game. We want to hear it from everyone, no matter what your role is in helping the lives of shelter cats.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because these little fur babies need lots of love, and they give lots of love too. They're usually the sweetest things.
I could not imagine my life without them.
Yeah.
So with that out of the way, so this spotlight is about Tucker. So Tucker is a little shelter cat. He's my very first cat. Tyler was from Little Shelter, and Tucker also I got from Little Shelter. And he came into my life in late February of 2017, so almost 7 years ago already.
Wow, that's crazy to think how that time just flies like that.
I know, he's going to be 11 already. So he succeeded Jackson. Jackson will have an episode of his own, but Jackson died after a fairly lengty bout with kidney problems, and then he had bladder cancer.
Oh.
So he went from this enormous 19-pound cat that would do this weird kind of kneading, humping thing on my legs to very, very, very ill towards the end. Oh. And so he passed away where he crossed the Rainbow Bridge. And my thing is, I've discussed this in other episodes. Some people take a long time to mourn the passing of a beloved pet. I'm one of those, like, jump right in.
Oh, you just get right back in there? It's, for me, it depends. I feel like I've always had animals, and then, whenever one passes, I say, well, I'm not going to get another one for a little while. I need to, like you say, you need to heal, you need to grieve a little bit, and then inevitably something happens where another cat comes into my life. So even though I would sometimes maybe prefer to have that time, it's never been the case for me.
Yeah. What is the John Lennon, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans?
There you go.
Yep. I don't.
Yep.
I'm not that way with relationships. I'm 2 years single, and I'm not running into anything anytime soon.
Yeah.
But with cats, it's a little different.
Right.
So,
yes, it is a little different.
So he died in mid-February, and then later in the month, I was my then girlfriend and I started looking, and what happened, Michelle?
What happened?
Oh, I thought I lost you.
Nope, I'm here.
I started just looking at the shelters in my neighborhood, and actually the first place we went was the Source Mall in Westbury.
Yeah. Yep. Sure.
By that point it was already like dead mall, and I remember on the second floor this rescue. I don't remember their name. They don't exist anymore.
In the mall, there was a rescue.
So the mall had already been like mostly abandoned. There was really nothing in there. Except like Dave and Buster's and a couple of stores. And I remember on the second level, in one of the empty stores, there was a cat rescue.
Really?
I don't remember. Something with heart, like We Heart Cats, or something Heart to Heart. Or I don't. For the life of me, I don't remember the name.
Right.
But that was one of the first places we went because it was pretty close to home.
Yeah.
And it was like an evening after work, and so that was like the first step, and there was really nobody there that kind of sang out to me. There was one black cat I remember that wanted to sit on my shoulders the whole time. But
I love that.
But other than like he sat on my shoulders, I didn't really feel a bond with him.
Yeah.
I remember that. I just remember walking around like with this cat standing on my shoulders. Like I felt like a stepladder. I didn't feel like a potential. So what I wanted to do was, I had such a great experience with Little Shelter. I wanted to go back, and I wanted to see what was there.
Right.
So on that following Sunday, which was last Sunday in February, we, my then girlfriend and her son and I, we went to Little Shelter in Huntington.
Right.
They're out on the island. They've been around for 90 years. They were one of my first interviews on the podcast.
Yeah, they've been around for a long time. Long time.
They're just a great shelter, and they don't have cages. It's just a big open house called the Cattery where they have 300 cats, and you just kind of like dive in and you see who you bond with, basically. So that's how I know not every organization has the benefit of so much space, but that's like the in a perfect world, that's the best way to try to find a cat, is to just go in the room and kind of see who walks up to you, see who you connect with.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
I wish kind of like speed dating for cats. You know? I've never done speed dating, and I never will. After 2 minutes, I'd get so cranky. I'd be like, "Get away from me! I don't want to talk to any of you fucking people."
Well, that's when you move on to the next person, because I think what do you do, like 30 seconds, 60 seconds? I've never actually done it myself either, but I think that's the whole 60 seconds. Move along. 60 seconds, move along.
I would just print out something here. Just read that. I don't want to beat myself.
Yeah. That's funny.
So
you bring your resume. Here you go.
So the first time I went to meet Tyler, which was in 2000, it was very kind of like you signed in, you were escorted from the front desk to on the property to the building where the cats were, and you just kind of like, all right, go walk around and see who you connect with.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this time when I went. So it was the last Sunday in February in 2017, and I remember when I went, it was more like a tour.
Oh, okay.
My then girlfriend was trying to push me into getting a kitten, and I always like to adopt the young adults.
Yeah, sure.
Because Jackson, I had adopted when he was 5, and with the exception of one, Mona, who's watching me record, they've all been kind of at least 1 or 2 years old, if not a little older.
Yeah.
But instead of like go in and see who you connect with, they started out like they brought us into the kitten room. So there was one room. So it's a big, I don't know if you've ever been there. So it's a house.
No, I haven't.
And it's, you walk in, as soon as you walk in, you're in the kitchen, and there's cats everywhere. So it's like a 1-level house where they have multiple rooms filled with any kind of cat furniture you could imagine. So cat trees and shelves up to the ceiling. And they have a room where the sick cats are recovering. They have a room where the kittens that need to be nursed are nursed.
Mm-hmm.
They have a room with like the young adults, like 6 months to a year. And then they have like the rest of the building is Gen Pop. And it's literally they usually have like 300 to 350 cats in this. So there's windows, there's like a screened-in porch, and there's a lot of volunteers that are, keeping it clean and taking care of all the cats, and keeping track of who's who, and they're all chipped, so they could do a quick scan and see who's who. Well,
that was going to be my next question: was how do they keep track of it? But it's just with the chips. Do they have collars on or anything, or just the chips?
Some had collars, some don't. When I got Tyler, he had a collar. I still have his collar, but by the time I got Tucker, it was all chipped.
Okay.
So it's just a little wand thing.
Yep.
They do the thing. They could determine who's who and who needs what just by scanning the chip in his ear.
Yeah.
He's the only one of my cats that are chipped.
Yeah.
So God forbid something happens, he has the chip.
That's good.
So they started us here, the kittens, and the kittens are either passed out or running around like crazy. And I love kittens, but I had my heart set on an adult.
Yeah. Well, kittens are so much work, first of all. They're just so much work because exactly like what you just said, they're either passed out or they are like they're on cocaine. They're just running around rampant. And it's like you have to train them. And not to say that you can't do it, but it's a lot of work. You get an older cat, they're generally, not always, but generally more subdued a little bit. They're almost always a little bit more trained, So
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting. So, but I played along. We looked at the kittens, and then there were other people with us that day, so they took us into the second room where there were young adults, and a few more. Kittens don't always interact with, from my experience anyway. Kittens in shelters, they don't interact with people as much as they're interacting with, ooh, toys, ooh, food, ooh, this, ooh, that. By the time they're a couple of months old, they're they're more like, who the hell are you?
Yeah, yeah.
They're starting to figure out, okay, I'm in this building with a bunch of my kind, and sometimes these humans come in and one of us leaves.
Yeah.
Maybe I should kiss their ass a little bit.
Just step up my game.
Yeah, like you could tell by the time they're like 6 months old, you could tell they're starting to figure. They're like in training for that. They're starting to figure it out.
Right.
So at that point, I'm not as anybody who's ever been friends or dated me. I am not renowned for my patience. I am not a patient person, which is why I prefer cats to humans. I remember clearly I said to whoever was giving me the tour, do you mind if I jump off the line and just go into Gen Pop? Do you like this? This is great, but I've been here before. I felt like a high roller in Vegas. Like,
that's funny.
I've gambled here before. I adopted 20 years.
Do you know who I am?
17. I was here last. There was no electricity. I felt like. Meanwhile, they're like Tyler 2000. Do you know how long ago that was? Who the fuck are you? But they were very nice because I had adopted before, and they're like, yeah, fine, go, no problem. So I left my then girlfriend to go look at she was more interested in the young ones than I was, but we had agreed that this was going to be my cat because
right.
Jackson was really my cat. He stayed with me every night. So this was definitely what. Although I wanted her opinion, it was definitely like what I wanted. I was going to pick the cat.
Right. Yep.
So I went into so instead of these little rooms, there's this maze of rooms. So one big room after another that's filled with, from cat trees to shelves to like storage cubbies lined with cat beds.
Wow.
And cats everywhere. Like, we should do a road trip as podcast people.
We should
go. And we should bring Ralph, because Ralph's mind will explode. Because it's a lot. It's literally hundreds and some of them want nothing to do with you. Yeah. Some of them are like, oh my God, take me home.
See, I think the ones that want nothing to do with me, those are the ones I'm going to want. Like, I'm going to want to prove that I can love them and that they're going to love me. Like, but also I like the fact that they'll leave me alone sometimes. Like, I like that. That's a nice behavior in a cat every once in a while, where they're just like, you know what? I'm good. And then you don't see him for, a whole day.
Yeah, that's and the volunteers say that to you when you first go in.
Yeah,
they're like, just so you know, not every cat is going to be friendly. Some of them are still feral. Some are still feral, and this is where they're going to live for the rest of their life. Some will never leave here.
That's so sad.
So I mean, it's better than, so it's like a halfway house.
Yeah,
it's better than being on the streets.
That's right. It's better than being on the streets, but you're still not going to get like the personal love and attention that you would get in a home.
Yeah, and some were perfectly happy there and would hiss and growl and like, fuck you. Fuck you. Don't come near me. Yeah. I'll fuck you up. So you kind of like, and and then there's a bunch that walk up to you, and Tucker was one of them. Yeah. So there was this black cat and this gray cat and other cats. And by that point, her son had come in the room, and he was sitting. They have chairs in corners so that you can kind of sit. Okay. Yeah. Like you can kind of like try to bond with your cat, or sure. literally like free lap. And some of the cats don't want to leave. They just want to lap for like 10 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So some just want to lap fix or just want attention. So he had like 4 cats on him, and he was in heaven. and a few cats walked up to me, but the one that caught my eye was Tucker, except his name at the time was Ronald. and I know what you're thinking. He had a brother named Donald who was there somewhere, an orange cat. Ronald and Donald. I God bless these shelters. Sometimes they're, I said Ronald, and the volunteers say we don't know what to name them half the time.
I mean, I can imagine after they've got like 300 plus cats in there, you got to run out of names after a while. Like, I can't,
Yeah,
start naming them cat number 1, cat number 2, cat number 3,
yeah. I can't fault them, but his name at the time was Ronald. But he's a big, large, gray tabby. At that time, he was thinner. They're well fed. There were feeding stations everywhere. But obviously, in a shelter, you're not a house cat yet, so you don't become the well fed house cats that mine are. But he was this big gray tabby, and he has a very small face. So even though he's got, I call him the barrel chested cat, but he's got a very small pointy face for a big tabby. And I've always liked the big kind of lumbering tabby cats. That's why 4 of my 7 are tabbies, whether not by choice.
Right.
Rosie's a tabby, Mona's a tabby. So he kind of he lumbered over and, hi, how are you? What's your deal, human? It wasn't, he was rubbing me. He was very sweet, but he had this kind of Zen aura about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of like, oh my God, take me home. Oh my God, can I come home with you? Are we leaving? Can we go now? Can we stop at Trader Joe's on the way? He was like, so what do you do for a living? Tell me about yourself. And then he kind of rubbed his gums, he purred, and then, okay, I'm going to go over there. And he jumps up on one of the upper shelves and curls up in a bed. And the people that were with me, they thought he was aloof.
Yeah, okay.
Because he said hello, he did his, rubbing, and I don't know, he just his zen, his quiet assurance, his quiet confidence, just drew me to him.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he's he's at eye level with me, staring at me, but he's curled up on a bed. He was very friendly with the other cats. That's
a good sign. That's definitely a good sign.
In fact, 2 came over to clean his head while I was watching it. So he was and he remains to this day. He's like the representative of his kind. He is so friendly, and just any cat that comes in, he eyes them as, can we cuddle? Can I lay on you?
Aww.
Can you clean my head for 10 minutes? And so I'm petting him, and there's no aggression, there's no anything. He's gently purring. He's looking at me and kind of squinting his eyes, so he's fallen asleep. And two cats came over and cleaned his head. They kind of sat with him. They had a conversation, and then they walked off. So then finally, my ex comes over. I'm starting to like this guy, but his name is Ronald. But he's just, what do you think of him? He seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
And she goes, meh.
Well, I mean, if she had her heart set on a kitten, it's, I don't know, it's gonna be hard to pull somebody away from that.
I know.
Just from the cute factor alone on kittens, it's tough.
I know she kept trying to drag me. Oh, come with the kids. I'm like, I like this guy. Look at him.
Yeah.
He's just so zen. I think he'd be because my Sophie is queen boss bitch. So another thing I was looking for was a very non-alpha, a very beta cat.
Yeah.
And he definitely had that.
You're right. Now, Dan, I have a question. Had he been at the shelter since he was a kitten, or did he go there as an adult?
Yes, he was there. I asked them that. That was actually one of my first questions. He had never had a home.
Okay.
Aww. In fact, not long after, a volunteer, came up to me. Oh, so how's it going? I said, what's his deal? Oh, his name is Ronald. I went, he was about 3.5. Mm-hmm. He was found as a kitten in Westbury. And I said, had he ever had a home? had he ever been out of here? Was he brought in? They're like, no, he's never had a home. He came here as a kitten. He's been here ever since.
Oh, so about almost 3. So, well, 3.5, you said when you went there. So 3 and a bunch of months he was there. Poor thing.
Yeah, at least 3.5. He was born in July, and that was February. So like 3.5.
Yeah.
3.5 years. All he knew was that shelter. That's where he grew up.
Right.
And my ex was with me, and when I asked that question, and both our hearts sank.
Yeah.
We're both. My reaction was, "Oh my God, I can't believe that he could be so friendly to like me, a person."
Yeah.
Because the danger with being in a shelter so long is they don't want to leave. But he looked at me like, if I go home with you, fine. If not, also fine. Whatever. You let me know. My people will call your people. Whatever. I don't care. And he's like that to this day. I was drawn to his like Zen, peaceful, calm demeanor.
Right.
So he was in perfect health. There's nothing wrong. He had an ear infection, which was cleared up the summer before. And I looked at her. I said, I want this one.
Yep.
And that was it. So we filled out the application. And even though I had the difference from when I got my first cat there in 2000 is they're a lot more thorough with their applications.
Okay.
Than maybe they were years and years and years ago. So they always call, check with your landlord if you rent or. So they called my landlord. I already told them, you're going to get a call. Tell them I'm the greatest tenant that ever lived. And they do a vet check. You give them the name of the vet, and they'll call the vet. So they said, we're going to call your references and give us a few days. So by the end of the next day, I was on pins and needles.
Yeah.
And because I really wanted him. But by the end of the next day, they called and they said, he's yours. And I was at work and I let out a woo. And they said, we're going to take him to the vet for one last vet check, which always makes me happy when they do that.
Yeah.
And you can come get him Thursday. So that was it. He was mine. Thursday after work, we went back to Little Shelter. And when I first got there, they couldn't find him.
He's off doing yoga in a corner somewhere.
They're like, what does he look like? He's a gray tabby. They're like, that doesn't help us.
That's pretty funny.
He's a big gray tabby. You call him Ronald, but we had decided on the name Tucker. Okay. Gray tabby, that describes 75 of the cats here. How are we going to find it? So they literally took the wand that scans the chip, and they're scanning. Does that look like him? No. Head's too big. Does that look like him? Head's too big. Finally, in the very back of all the rooms, he was on one of the shelves, like half asleep.
Right. That's funny.
And they scanned him like, this is him. He looks at me. He looks at me like, this better be good.
That's right. You're waking me for this? Why?
And the other big difference from 2000 is social media.
Yeah.
So they had a volunteer that insisted on taking a picture for the social media, for Facebook.
Okay.
So they took a couple of pictures, and I took him home, and we took him home, and he made not one sound in the carrier the entire.
Oh, that's
he's not
I can't. My vet is 5, maybe 10 minutes if I hit traffic lights from my house, and the amount of meowing I get from specifically Legs. Delilah, she meows a little bit in the beginning, but then she shuts up. But then Legs, the entire way, it's just non-stop meowing, and it's not even a 5-10 minute ride. Like, it's not that bad. I don't know what your problem is, but he is just like and the idea of I used to have a job where I did a lot of traveling, and I considered every once in a while to bring somebody with me. I'm like, I could not drive more than 10 minutes with this cat in the car. I think we both go insane.
I know it. So Sophie has a meow like Roz from Monsters Inc. So she's screaming her head off.
No, this guy sounds like a crying baby with like an Asian accent of some sort. It's just like it's.
My second cat, Tiger, had my first Ginger. He had a meow that sounded like a kazoo. Or those sticks that make that noise. I don't know what they're called.
Like one of the old giggle sticks, like one of those things.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. He sounded like a kazoo mixed with that. So when I adopted, he'll get his own episode. But when I brought him home, I had to drive from Northport to Glen Cove, and the whole time the ride home, I'm hearing meow. So
like his batteries are dying.
Yeah, that one smoke detector that'll beep for 6 months because you don't want to change the 9-volt battery. Yeah. So the whole ride, meow woo, like kid from Knight Rider. Tucker, to his credit. Like I said, did we forget him? Is he back there still? Because he didn't make a sound.
That's fun.
He's just looking out the window like, damn, this is nice. Where are we going, man? This is cool. Mind you, that was the last time he was ever calm in a car, because since then, to go to a vet, to go back in the carrier, he needs to be tranquilized.
Really?
Because he's so terrified that I'm going to bring him back.
Oh no!
When he has to go to the vet, I have to go there, get a tranquilizer.
Wow.
Which is always in pill form. Damn it! And then I have to wrestle him to the ground and pill him, and then he goes back to being like,
wow,
like Tommy, like Cheech and Chong, like
right,
what I mean?
Right, yeah. Now, was there ever like an attempted adoption on him before? Like, did some other family come in and try and adopt him and then bring him back for whatever reason?
No. I was the first. I asked him that again, actually, the day I took him home.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're the first person to ever show interest in it.
Oh,
because
it was meant to be.
The kittens get adopted, the young adults get adopted, but the more mature adults, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up, they're the older they get, the less the adoptions. The fewer the adoptions.
Yeah.
But, so I had everything ready. I sequestered him in the bedroom. I introduced him to Sophie. Sophie didn't care at all. I had it all ready to confine him in the bedroom. Get into the bedroom, close the door. If you follow the book, you're supposed to release them right next to the litter box. So it ingrains in their head, okay, bathroom there, food there, got it. Mm-hmm. So I let him out, and he just he kind of saunters out, and he's looking at everything in the bedroom. He sniffed everything, he checked everything out. He jumped right onto the bed. He sniffed the bed. He sat on the bed for a minute. He looked at me like, I get to live? Really? I get to stay? I heard about this when we saw it on TV. I could stay here. And then he went right under the bed, and stayed there for just a couple of days. By I'd say 2 days after he came home, he was already exploring the bedroom,
right,
and staying on the bed with me, and we bonded instantly.
Right. Well, that's good.
And I'd say by the end of the first month, you'd already met Sophie.
Mm-hmm.
And Sophie's not. They're the polar opposites. Sophie's not. She tolerates other cats. She's not bosom buddies with them.
Right. Well, now at that time, at 2017, who else did you have already? You had Sophie, and who else?
That's it.
So it was just Sophie, and you were bringing him in. Okay. All right.
Yeah. those are the lighter days. I was not active in cat rescue at all at the time.
Right.
I would start later in the year when the colony started showing up at my door. But at that point, it was just Sophie and Tucker, and I thought 2 was a good number.
Now, did you name him Tucker because you wanted to have it Sophie Tucker, or was that just a coincidence?
Cool. Today I learned. No, total. See if I'd known you at the time. No, total coincidence. I had that. Wow, didn't occur to me.
That's pretty funny.
I will give my ex credit for she had more of a hand in naming him Tucker.
Okay.
We were just like, I said I'm not calling him Ronald.
Yeah.
Then I'll start calling him Ronald McDonald.
Yeah. No, that's horrible.
So we just rattled off names, and Tucker came up, and I'm like, he looks like a Tucker.
Yeah, I think it's a great name. I think it's a great name for a kitty.
So he became Tucker, and right away, it was clear he was my cat. He bonded with the other people in the household. He liked them. He would go stay in her son's room because at the time he lived here too.
Mm-hmm.
He would go hang out with him. He was fascinated by the TV
right.
for a while, and then he kind of got used to it.
Right.
But at first he'd never really seen TVs before. He would sit there and watch it like, I don't know what this is. This is the coolest thing. Can I go in there? No. So I just look at it. He was so enthralled by it. He just, like that zen that he had in the shelter, translated to his house life. He's just happy and not one mean bone in his body, and very cuddly and very thankful and very, not picky with what he ate, and very happy to just be here and have a home.
Right.
And then at night, because this also coincided with the troubles in my relationship. That year they started to really not only come out but grow by leaps and bounds.
Right.
One of the first things he actually had a hand in. So at the time, I lived with my ex here, and we would obviously share a bed as people in semi-normal relationships do.
Mm-hmm.
But she took a lot longer to get ready for bed because of products and bathroom stuff and normal bedtime. I brushed my teeth, got into bed, done. Yeah. There was a lot more stuff involved with her with face washing, and I called it she'd pickle herself before bed.
I get it. I get it. I got a little bit of a routine myself, it's it takes me a minute.
No, hey, whatever. Respect. You do your thing. Just don't put that shit on my face. But whatever. So I would be in bed and I'd be watching TV, and Tucker started jumping onto the bed, and he'd lay on me in between us.
Yeah.
So he particularly, I had one end of the bed facing out into the room, and he would come onto my left side, and he'd lay right on my, I'd hold him, and he'd lay with his head near my head.
Yeah.
And he'd kind of curl up, so his body is along, he's like body pillow cat, but his head is up by here.
Yep.
His head is near my head, and he'd kind of put his head on me and fall asleep. So by the time she was done pickling herself, he and I were very comfortable, and there was not as much room. So 200 pound adult, 15 plus pound cat. There wasn't quite as much room for however tall she was, a human female. So
yeah.
And fun fact, I snore.
Uh-huh.
And an extra fun fact, Tucker snores.
My cat Legs does a little snoring. It's really, that's a fun deal.
Is it loud, or is it just like a cute little thing?
It's not really loud. It's just it almost sounds like an exaggerated purr in a way, like a weird, just a weird kind of purr. Yeah, like a
Now
heavy
this
breathing, like purr with a heavy breathing. You know.
Oh, so sounds like you made it sound like an obscene phone call.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
What do you hang up the phone? No, no. I snored, and we won't get into that. I will just say she used to record my snoring and play it back for me.
Oh no.
Like she had, like in the voice recorder app of her iPhone, she had, Dan 1, Dan 2, Dan snoring 3, Dan snoring, like that whole, like she's building a case against me. Dude, this is what you sound like. This is what you sound like. Sorry. Pay for surgery. So Tucker would also, if he curled up a certain way, he would also like a cat version of that. So long story short, he and I got to bed. She started sleeping on the couch.
Oh no.
Because quote unquote, she couldn't take my snoring, she couldn't take his snoring, and he would kind of spread out, and he looked at her like, I'm not moving.
A girl's got her limits, really. I mean.
So I'd wait. Half the time I'd fall asleep, and then we'd wake up, and she's not there. Where'd she go? And then I'd see her curled up on the couch.
Oh, boy.
And that happened more and more, and there were still some nights where he'd go sleep somewhere else. So he tried really hard to make friends with Sophie, so he'd hang out with her. But there were many nights where he was laying on me, because he and I really, really bonded and got really close. And he would put his head right by my head, and I'd fall asleep like holding him. And he still does that to this day, except there's a lot more cats, so frequently I'm smothered in cats that need an inhaler these days. But at the time it was just Tucker, and more she would sleep on the couch. So he, did he have a hand or a paw in that kind of like separation? Maybe he sped it up, but
yeah.
I chose to cuddle with him rather than her, and that was basically it. Kind of like by the end of the first year he was here, she was sleeping on the couch and he was sleeping with me, and the more and more that our problems got worse, and the more it kind of caused me stress and it got me down, because we were connecting a lot less, we were communicating a lot less,
right?
And there were many nights where I'd go to bed kind of confused and like wondering where this person that I had such a great love with had suddenly become someone that just not only didn't want to communicate with me, but didn't want to discuss our issues or work on anything at all.
Yeah.
And so I'd go to bed, and cats pick up on your emotions. That's what I love about cats, and I'm sure you have that with yours.
Mm-hmm.
Is they pick up on your vibe and your emotions. So if you're happy, they're happy. If you're sad, they know to like reach out to you and to bond with you and to cuddle with you.
Yeah.
And if you're sick, homesick, they turn into hot water bottles.
I always feel like when that's the case, when I'm homesick, if I'm in bed for more than longer than I usually would be, that they they claim me as one of their own. Like they just start curling up.
Yeah.
And then if I have to leave the bed, for whatever reason, they're like, where are you going? They just look at me like, where are you going? You're supposed to be here in the bed. What's going on? They get very confused,
Just so we're clear, are you feeling better now? Yeah.
Yeah, right. They're like confirming themselves. They're like, did we lose you? Are you coming back?
What is your current status? So there were many nights where we were not communicating well at all.
Yeah.
And sometimes my attempts to communicate with her would turn into either I'd hit a brick wall, or it would turn into arguments. And there were many nights I'd go to bed feeling stressed and feeling upset and confused and like trying to figure out a way out of it. And Tucker would come onto the bed and he put his face on my face.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was he laying on me, he literally like put his face, he'd lean his cheek against my cheek.
Aw.
And he'd purr, and he put his paws on me. And whatever mood I was in, whatever funk I was in, he would bring me out of it.
Right.
And no cat has ever done that. Like I said, they pick up on your emotions and they have a way of cheering you up. But when he went much further and went the extra mile and actually putting his face on my face, and it would instantly take me out of whatever I was in, and I'd smile and I'd laugh and I'd fall asleep.
Yeah.
He had that like uncanny ability to, no, we don't like her. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You could do better, Dan. Dad, human. You could do better. We don't need anybody. Get her out of here. That was kind of this loud purr that would turn into this snore, and he'd pass out. So, as 2019 turned into 2020, and at that point, another cat came into our lives that showed up at our door named Minnie. And, the pandemic happened, and everybody's working from home. And, we don't need to go into all the pandemic stuff, but, big changes kind of as 2019 turned into 2020 and 2021. The pandemic, in my mind, whatever hope for that relationship to be fixed, the pandemic killed it.
Yeah.
Because by that point, we had worked together for a couple of months at home. We were basically done, and nothing more than roommates at that point. And he was definitely, I could not have gone through that difficult time without him.
Yeah.
Because every night, he'd do his thing, and then every night he'd come onto the bed and he'd curl up with me.
Right.
And he'd put his face on my face. And especially the demise of the relationship when I, discovered that there was infidelity.
Oh boy.
Okay. There was like a 2-week period where I asked her to leave, and there was a 10-day, 2-week period where she had to figure out how to get out of here as quick as possible. Because, I confronted her. This isn't a relationship podcast, but I basically said, I know what you're doing. How soon can you get out? And Tucker did not leave my side through that.
Yeah.
Because as bad as the relationship had gotten, there was still, the only kind of connection we had left were cats. So I knew, he would stay here. She took Mona's brother, Bean, and she took that black cat, Minnie, that showed up at our door, because those were her cats. Mm-hmm. They loved me, but they slept with her every night. So I knew, Mona, Sophie, and Tucker, I knew they'd be staying here. Right. So he did not leave my side that entire time. And every time she would be here, he would give her the dirtiest looks. So literally, when I say at the beginning of every podcast, have saved my life, he literally saved my life, because when you're with somebody 9 years and you're so miserable, you question your existence a lot of the time, which I was doing.
Yeah.
I literally, there's many parts of me that I'm not sure I'd be here if it wasn't for him.
Right.
And if it wasn't for the fact that I have to take care of him. He's my responsibility. So he literally saved my life. He would not leave my side. Every night he put his face on my face. He put his paws on my chest. He'd make sure I was okay. Whatever I was doing, I was working from home, he would stay with me like my guardian and protector. And I talk to my cats. I don't care what people think about that. Um, even when people are here, they look at me like, "You're talking to your cats? They don't understand you, right?" But I would talk to him. I would kind of, just tell him what's going on, and he'd look at me. I'm just nodding, but I don't understand English. But yeah, that sounds good. He just literally, his support, his love, his unconditional. I don't care whatever this is. I love you. It'll be fine. That whole unconditional love from a cat that had never known a home, had never been in a home before.
Yeah.
That the only life he knew before here was a shelter life, that he was capable of such a strong connection with me. Literally got me through a very probably the darkest period of my life.
Right.
And that's Tucker.
Oh, that's great. What a sweet boy.
That's my Tuck man. So now he'll be 11 this summer. He's there's 7 of them here now, including him, and he still has that zen about him. He bonds with everybody here. He lays on them. They cuddle with him. Now I have Vance the ginger, and like we said the other episode, Vance is Mr. Jealous Boy, and Tucker doesn't care. He's just, all right, fine, you go in. And Taylor, the 13-year-old that I got off of death row, they're like bosom buddies.
Right.
They curl up, and he's just like the representative of his kind. All cats love him. He loves all cats. He's if like Apple Fitness could have an episode where Tucker runs a meditation session, where you just watch him purr and sleep, and you're very, you've definitely had your moment of zen. I think it would be their best fitness program.
I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't a podcast or something like that out there.
So that's the Feline Spotlight on Tucker.
Oh, that's very sweet. Sweet boy.
So yeah. So that was he deserved his own spotlight. So that is the episode. What do you think?
That's good. It's a great little story.
It's
a great story. Yep.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for being an amazing co-host.
Thank you for having me. I'm still very excited about all of this. So it's really cool.
Are you using the new microphone, by the way?
No, not yet. We were trying to get everything set up the other day. We ran into a couple of challenges, so we're gonna I guess maybe we'll try that again this week or this weekend or something.
You still sound great.
Well, thank you. I've sequestered myself in the bedroom. I did lock the cats out of the bedroom just because you know how cats are with closed doors. So I know if I had them in here with me with the door closed, somebody was going to start scratching to get out, and then I'd have to deal with that, and then I'd have to let them back in, and then back out again, and then back in. So it's better they're out in the main house where they have access to food, to their boxes, and their trees, instead of being trapped in here.
You have to explain to them we're talking about your kind.
That's right.
Now, in my home, there cannot be any closed doors.
Yeah.
There would be Vance literally ripped off molding from my bedroom door.
Oh my God.
The one time I closed the door, I don't remember exactly why. I woke up and half the molding was ripped off from one end of the door jamb.
Wow.
It was hanging by 2 nails, and he looked at me like, "Don't fucking do that again."
Yeah. No, this is the only time that I've been able to. I did hear Legs meowing outside the door for a couple of seconds earlier, but then he stopped. But this is really the only time I'm actually able to just sit in the room with the door closed. But I need to because there's other noise like outside of my house, and if I didn't, you'd hear music or you'd hear neighborhood noise or whatever. So I just need to. It actually winds up being quite quiet in here with the door closed, so it works out well.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
we'll see everybody. Everybody have a great week. Give your cats lots of love.
And your pets. Pets deserve love too.
your pets and your cats, and we'll see you in the next episode.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Surprise! Dan the Catman here with a quick update and addition. It is Catterday, or Saturday, March 2nd. March 2nd is also the Gotcha Day for Tucker, so happy 7-year Gotcha Day for Tucker, who's right here watching me talk about him and sort of purring and squinting his eyes and half asleep. So today is 7 years since Tucker left Little Shelter and became my amazing cat. So happy Gotcha Day for Tuckman. And I have an extra little announcement, a shameless plug for we have a new spin-off podcast called The Hermit Life Podcast. Yep. When one podcast is not enough, why not have two? Or as my mother used to say, take two, they're small. So I have a new podcast hosted by me, Dan the Catman. It's called The Hermit Life Podcast. It's a new monthly or thereabouts podcast all about my life as a hermit and how you too can live a happy, normal, fulfilling, full life without rarely ever leaving the house. So just search the Hermit Life Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And now I say goodbye and I wish you a good week, and we'll see you in the next episode.